Hey guys, welcome back to Culture Feeds. I'm your host Yaparoni. Thanks so much for joining me. And this week, this episode's coming out a little bit late because I actually wanted to talk about Justin Bieber today because I just watched his Coachella set. That's all I've been looking forward to this weekend. I wanted to kind of jump off of the bieberchella hype, but there are so many deep dives and analyses on Justin Bieber and his career if you go on YouTube, if you go on TikTok, whatever. And I wanted to do something that provides a new angle and something that personally resonates with me to his music. And I wanted to talk specifically about the album rollouts of Swag and Journals and what they signify in his career and just how I feel about it. And he obviously just recently performed at Coachella, and I feel like usually when artists headline Coachella, it's a really monumental moment in their career. It's often like a very big turning point in their career. And I feel like Justin Bieber is no different. So I wanted to watch that performance and also see how people respond to it and kind of give my take so I can also add that into my own analysis. So there's not going to be a video this week. I got a couple of notes with me, but there's not really much for me to show on the video side. So we're just going to be talking today. So just to give you guys an overview on how I'm going to be doing this analysis, I picked these two albums because I feel like they both have very similar parallels in terms of where Justin Bieber is at in his career, but also these two albums feel the most vulnerable or authentic to me in terms of the music that Justin genuinely loves to do. I might be biased because honestly, Journals is my favorite album of Justin's. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. I was planning to make a video about just his Journals album. Like that was already in like the list of topics that I wanted to do for this podcast. And I honestly really loved Swag 1 and 2. I thought they were both really strong projects, but I think both albums indicate a very important turning point in his career. And I thought it would be a fresh new angle because I feel like a lot of people are always talking about the love triangle or like the child star arc, and I would love to do that one day. I'm sure I could do it. I promise you, this will not be the last time I ever talk about Justin Bieber on this podcast or anywhere, in fact. I think talking about these two albums in particular, we can kind of touch on a lot of different things. Okay, so first, I actually want to talk about my thoughts on his Coachella performance. As of right now, it is the day after he performed weekend one, so I don't know if anything's going to be different for his second set, but I loved it. A lot of people have been saying, like, oh, like he's just doing YouTube karaoke or whatever, but it's like, I feel like knowing where Justin Bieber is in his career right now, it was kind of exactly the performance that I was expecting from him. Was it like this grandiose, super produced, large sets and lights and backup dancers and choreography and pyrotechnics? Like, no. It was clear that that was not the expectation that he was trying to satisfy. Like, that's not what he was going for. And I think that's okay. I didn't expect him to be doing the type of performances that he was doing on the Purpose tour or even the Justice tour. It That's just not what he's doing anymore, and I knew that. And you would know that if you've been following him for the past couple of years. Like I think he's truly at a place where he wants to strip the Justin Bieber incorporated part of his career. Like he knows and he'll always understand and acknowledge that that is a part of him and that's a part of his career, and that's a big factor as to why he has such a big platform now. That's not what he wants to continue doing anymore. I am of the opinion that at the end of the day, the set should be about the music. I don't care about the stage and all this other stuff. Like it's cool. It adds to the experience, of course, but as long as the music is good, that's what matters the most to me, at least for a festival or just like a live music experience like that. It's great to have those productions and great to have crazy set designs, but it's also not always needed, in my opinion. Because, like, if you think about it, like, DJs, like, don't have a crazy set design. Like, they don't need that. They don't need all that to create a great experience. And I just think knowing what he's gone through throughout his life and career, I am personally someone who thinks like it's great that he still wants to perform. It's still great that he wants to make music. The fact that the passion is still there, I think that's really beautiful. And I don't know, it just made me really happy to see him on the stage. It made me really emotional. I definitely teared up when he started covering himself. I thought that moment was so special. And him just like looking at himself and doing it like made me emotional. Like it makes me feel emotional now just thinking about it. And whenever I'm scrolling on Twitter and the clip of him singing along to Beauty and a Beat like comes up, it's come up like at least 10 times. I've watched that so many times, the clip of him singing along to Beauty and a Beat. Also, so Justin Bieber of him at the end to like show a video of him like running into a glass door or like showing that it's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business video, just like playing meme videos like the D's nuts video. Like it's so Justin Bieber. Like if you just go on his Instagram and see the ridiculous shit that he's been posting for years at this point, like that's just so him. Like this performance truly just like felt like Justin Bieber. I'm not gonna lie, some of the songs that he performed on Swag, I'm not as familiar with. Like I've listened through all the albums, but I'm not like listening to it on repeat. So it's not like I know all the words like I do for All That Matters or Confident or Sorry, like all the hits. But I'm always so in awe of his talent. He's truly like one of the greatest vocalists alive, in my opinion, arguably. When you watch his old YouTube videos, when he was still Kid Raw, like you could see that little boy and be like, it's not a matter of if he's going to be famous, it's like who is going to make him famous? Like who is going to set up a career for this boy. He was already born to be a star. Like I think even when he has like a super simple stage, I honestly really loved the set design. I thought it was aligned with like the Skylark brand that he has. I thought it just felt like him. Just something about the performance overall just felt so authentic to him, and I thought that was really emotionally captivating for me. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with all of the Swag songs. I did listen to a lot of his albums, so I love like Petting Zoo, All I Can Take, Daisies, Devotion, all that, but I'm not like singing the songs word for word. But it's just like hearing him sing, it's just always so captivating. I think he has one of the most beautiful voices ever, and I think he's so fucking talented. He had Kid Leroy come out, which that was fun. I'm not really a big fan of the song Stay, in my personal opinion. I just love when Justin sings it. I love that clip of him where he's like singing it on the edge of this stage and he's like drunk. Oh, it just sounded so good. Like he was just doing it a cappella. But yeah, he brought out Kid Leroy, and then he brought out Dijon for Devotion, and he brought out Kid and Thames at the end for Essence. So I loved it. I also think this performance was really important, and just like this entire Swag era is really important because it's the first time that he's really doing things on his own with a brand new team. If you aren't aware, he had a team with like Scooter Braun, Ryan Good, all these people, Allison Kay, I believe. These are all people that were in his direct team since the beginning, like since he got signed pretty much. And he cut ties with them, I believe, in 2023 or 2024. I'm not sure exactly. So I just want to get some timestamps for your reference. So Scooter Braun officially stopped being Justin Bieber's manager in 2023. That is also the same year that Justin Bieber sold his catalog. And then he also cut ties with the rest of his team and no longer followed them on Instagram and all this other stuff since last year. So soon after he had cut ties with his original team, there was a lot of press, negative press, that kept swirling around about Justin Bieber, like more than usual. And I feel like people go through these phases of like being like, oh, Justin Bieber's going crazy, like all this other stuff. And this is where I want to draw the parallel to the journals era as well, because there are moments where people suddenly give a shit that Justin Bieber is going through something, as if he hasn't continuously been going through shit like his entire career. Around like 2024, 2025, I feel like there was a lot of talks about Justin Bieber's going crazy, like he's like on drugs, he's doing this, he's doing that. There was one specifically about him owing money to Scooter Braun because of his canceled tour. I'm gonna pull up that article actually. Okay, so this was 11 months ago. So this was basically like this time last year in 2025. There was like a huge expose article about how Justin Bieber breaks up with Scooter Braun over money. Audits show that Justin owes Scooter millions. Now, allegedly, this is all alleged. There are rumors that I cannot confirm that Scooter Braun has a lot of connections to TMZ, and TMZ broke this news. And I remember there was like a huge documentary about how Justin Bieber owed Scooter Braun money. And it was this whole thing. Okay, May 14th, 2025. So this is when the article broke. And then in July, I guess they settled their financial dispute. And I just pulled up a Reddit thread, and the top upvoted comment is, honestly, a big part of why Justin Bieber is seemingly struggling mentally and emotionally is likely because of Scooter Braun overworking him and burning him out since he was a literal child. I don't doubt that whatever Braun and his team found is technically accurate and probably legally sound, but I'm willing to bet whatever the specific deal was is still pretty sketchy ethically. I can see why Justin Bieber would want to dig in his heels and refuse to give him a dime, even if he legitimately owes him money, because Braun's gotten rich off of him for forever, and he probably never felt able to say no to him before. I think that is probably a very, very common story in the industry, particularly with artists who don't lawyer up. They start really young. Their parents are unknown of the industry. You know, there's a lot of stage parents and a lot of like Nepo babies in the industry. Justin Bieber is not one of them. I feel like a lot of people end up getting into really bad deals and things that they aren't aware of simply because of ignorance. Like they just didn't learn it, or they didn't take the extra precautions to see how they would benefit financially or be exploited financially. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of the perspective of Justin Bieber when it came to this legal dispute. That's just my opinion. Everything is alleged opinions. Okay. And just the way this story had broke around when everyone was kind of talking about Justin Bieber crashing out. He doesn't look good. He looks angry all the time. Like it was just the press was really on his ass around this time last year. It was a mix of a lot of old rumors coming back up, especially amidst the Diddy trial, because Diddy is connected to Usher, and Usher is connected to Justin. Diddy is also connected to Scooter Braun, all this other stuff. So a lot of people were speculating about Justin's involvement in this, and he's never spoken out about this. You know, I feel like a lot of people were waiting for him to like respond or like speak up or say something about it. And I just felt like that was so unfair because he's like one of those people where like you can just assume the worst. Like I don't think it's Justin Bieber's responsibility to be the one to like collapse the system in a way. Does that make sense? I just feel like that's such a burden to put on someone who clearly has been abused and exploited throughout his career. That couldn't have been easy for Justin to go through. And then on top of that, all these planted stories are starting to come up after he cuts ties with his team. It just feels very. It felt like everything was coming to the forefront at once. And I don't believe that it was a coincidence. I think he got to a point where he saw his team and thought, you still let all of this happen to me. I, this is just me making assumptions. I'm sure having his own kid, changed his perspective immensely. And I don't think it's a coincidence that after he had kids and after the Diddy stuff came out is when he decided to cut off his team. Having children of his own probably completely changed his perspective on like his own childhood. Ugh, it just makes me so sad. Like I just feel like I he is definitely the pop star that I grew up with because I saw him throughout his entire career. Just seeing him now where he's at, still alive and passionate to do music and like having his own family, like it I just, I'm just kind of at the point, and I think a lot of people are, even the people who might not be dedicated fans of him, like we just want to see him do well, like we just want to see him heal and come out the other side of it. And I think he's in the process of doing that. I think that's where he is right now, and I think that his Coachella performance really was indicative of that. It's so nuanced too because I also like know that he has a history of being abusive and an asshole and like narcissistic at times. Like he's done a lot of problematic things as well. He's had a lot of behavior issues, I would say. But I also think like he was set up where that's all he kind of knew what to do. And I see a lot of parallels in this with the journals era back in 2013 to 2014, and here's why. It was clear that he was developing journals during the time that he was on the Believe tour because he sings a clip of Flatline, which is one of my favorite songs on the Journals album. And before recording this episode, I also watched the Believe documentary for the first time. And watching that documentary was super interesting to me. It's just like a tour concert documentary, but I feel like watching it in hindsight is super interesting because I feel like the Believe era was truly like Justin reaching the tipping point. It felt like Bieber mania, Bieber fever. It was like really starting to spill over the edge at this point, and they were trying to make it seem like it wasn't. It's so curated. It's so obvious that his team is trying to continue to push this good boy cookie cutter image of Justin. And I think he still felt the pressure to upkeep that image. You can tell in the documentary. I feel like it was getting to a point where it was extremely overwhelming. And if you go back and if you were on Stan Twitter during this time and you kept up with like the Beliebers and all this lore, if you were in like the corners of the internet where people are talking and gossiping about Justin Bieber, you could probably tell that he was starting to act out. He was starting to kind of go into his teenage rebellious phase. There's this one scene. I remember watching this specific clip a while back, but watching it just in context of this documentary was really interesting where they ask like there are all these child stars that are known to like go crazy and all this other stuff. And like, what do you think about that? Like, how are you going to make sure that you're not like that? He says something that's so naive and innocent, but like sad now, looking back at it. And he says, like, well, that's not going to be me because I know that can happen. So why would I let that happen if I know it could? Or something like that, something along those lines. And I was just like, oh my God, Justin, you don't even know what's going to happen to you in the next year or two. Like, I was just thinking about that because the years following this documentary were absolutely insane. Like it made me really sad to see that he eventually did also fall into that trope, but it's also kind of like how could he not? And then Bizzle era happens. And if you guys want me to do an entire podcast episode about this era, I would love to. I have so many thoughts on this era because I think it's really interesting and I think it's a really pivotal point in his career. He was really on one around this time. He was doing horribly in the press, like the press and the public hated his guts around this time. He was kind of getting known to be a douchebag, and he was saying fuck Bill Clinton, which aged beautifully, honestly. He was peeing in mop buckets. I feel like every time people talk about this time period, you have to talk about the fact that he peed in a mop bucket. Like that's what everyone remembers. The press hated him. He was in this tumultuous relationship with Selena Gomez. Like I think he was also probably surrounding himself with a lot of bad people. He was just getting into a lot of trouble, and the press absolutely dogged him. And I remember around this time feeling like his team was like not doing much to really protect him or try to save his image at all. Like they really just kind of let him take it. But also, this was an era where he was rebelling against his team as well. So maybe that is also why that they couldn't protect him, or maybe they didn't feel incentivized to protect him because he was doing everything against them. But I think this is also the time where he was really experimenting creatively with his music and trying to find his own sound that he loved. Journals specifically, I feel like is indicative of a time where it was kind of his way of being like, you know what? Like I'm kind of over this. Like I kind of need to creatively express myself, and he wanted to do R&B. But obviously that didn't align with the Justin Bieber Incorporated image. So they did everything that they could to like not promote that album. It's not even considered a studio album, it's considered a compilation album because he released each track as a single every single week, and he called it hashtag Music Mondays. If you know, you know. I remember him like promoting Music Mondays on Instagram and like posting these songs every week, and I was like, oh wow, like this was really around the time where I was like, wow, like Justin Bieber like is making really good music right now. And I remember thinking, because I was in middle school at this time, and I was like, why aren't they promoting this more? Like it's really good. Because if you guys have listened to my very first episode, my pop culture nostalgia timeline, you would know that I've always been a really big fan of R&B and hip hop as well. So when I saw him doing this pivot, I was like, wow, this is really good. Like, and his vocals are amazing. Like it's really fit for the R&B genre. I would not consider myself a believer, honestly. I feel like you got to earn your stripes with that title, and I was not really a huge Justin Bieber fan until Journals. And I feel like a lot of people assumed that this Bizzle era, quote unquote, was him just appropriating black culture because it was trendy at the time, and I'm sure that there's an aspect of that. I'm not black, so I can't really speak on the implications of all that. A lot of people think that he pivoted this way because he wanted to be rebellious, and like aligning yourself with like black culture can sometimes create the image that you're being rebellious and you're being more mature and things like that. But also, if you look back at his history, like looking at the context of things, he has always loved R&B, and I think he's always been a student of R&B because if you go back, he covered Neo, Chris Brown. There's even like an Aretha Franklin cover, a Brian McKnight cover. Like he clearly grew up with a lot of black music influence, and I think he wanted to tap into that, and Journals was like the first time he was able to. So that's why I say I feel like Journals is one of his most authentic albums that he wanted to make, because he was making that type of this is the music that he was making knowing that his label wouldn't approve. So like why would he make music that the label doesn't approve of, that he doesn't think is authentic to him? You know what I mean? That's kind of my theory. And the timing of this album just really wasn't very ideal because he was obviously having a lot of negative press. And on top of that, the label didn't want to promote it in a standard album rollout. So this album commercially kind of flopped, but it ended up becoming a really cult classic within his fandom because I think a lot of people realize this is the music that he really loves to make. And a core part of his fandom also really loves R&B because they know that that's what Justin has always been influenced by, and he makes really great R&B music, honestly. And I think the production on the album was so mature and new and fresh, and I think it it was just a really pivotal point in his career because I think that was when he just said, fuck it, like I'm just gonna make the decisions on the creative side. If they promote it or not, I don't really care, but this is the music that I want to do. And I see a lot of parallels of that with Swag because this is his first project or projects because there's two of them where he's not with his team that he was always with since he got signed to a record label. He also released Swag during a time when everyone was like, "Oh my god, what's wrong with Justin Bieber? Like he's never going to make music again. Like he's going crazy." He said, "You know what? I don't care. I'm just going to make music that I want to do." Like that's what Swag feels like to me, and I feel like a lot of people could agree with that. I think a lot of people when Swag was first released compared it to Journals. And it's not necessarily that they sonically feel similar, but in terms of where he is in his career, they're both very much turning points. But the difference between Swag and Journals is that Justin now has creative control. He cut ties with his old team, he sold his catalog, and the music that he makes going forward, he has full creative control over. Given that he's built a legacy at this point, unlike when he was releasing Journals, he has full creative control and now he's fully built the brand. So I feel like Journals and Swag are very interesting turning points in his career. They're very different, but there's parallels to be made there, right? And I think it's really interesting to look at these turning points of Justin's career because these time periods in which he's the most scrutinized and criticized is when he releases the most vulnerable music that he's the most proud of. And he's never said that Journals is his favorite album or anything. I might be completely biased in looking at that, but I feel like based on the context of his career at the time, I feel like it's a good hypothesis per se. And I guess something that's important to also point out is like why I think these two albums in particular stand out to me is I feel like with purpose or changes or even justice, like all of these albums were still heavily pushed with a pop agenda from his team. And when you look at Swag, it's not a commercial pop album whatsoever. It's very much indie. There's a mix of hip hop and R&B there as well. It's not filled with a bunch of hits. You know what I mean? It's not going to be songs that chart for a really long time, but that's not what Justin Bieber is after anymore because he spent his entire career doing that. Even when you look at some of the responses of his Coachella set recently, a lot of people were saying that it was boring, he was only really singing the songs off Swag, but that's what he wants to do. He doesn't care about creating mainstream hype anymore because that's all he was groomed to do essentially throughout his entire career. Now he just wants to do the music that he loves. He's worked so hard to a point where he doesn't have to do all of that anymore. And of course, there's other artists that have worked for longer than him and still do all of that, do the mainstream stuff, do the performances and the grandiose sets and all that. Like we see Beyonce still killing it every single year, basically. But I simply think Justin doesn't want that anymore. Like he doesn't want to give that to people anymore. And I think that's okay. And I'm sure he had a lot of points in his career where he wish he could have done what he's doing right now. He would have done this sooner if he could. But now he's finally at a place where he can have full control of the music. He can do more of these minimalist rollouts. He doesn't have to make this entire show out of himself. And I think that's really cool. I think anytime I see an artist truly doing something that they love to do, I just want to root for it simply. It really doesn't matter to compare other artists. I don't think that's the point of art. I guess I want to talk a little bit more about Swag in terms of the music making process. He worked with two artists called McGee and Dijon, and they've been known to work together often as well. I love McGee and Dijon. They are really prominent in the indie space, and I think you can tell that Justin took a lot of inspiration from both of them, not only in terms of the music style, but also like the performance style of just like bare bones, really raw vocals and acoustics. And I think he sees artists like Dijon and McGee and just want to do something like that. He wants to be a little indie boy. I think there is a point that an artist gets to in their career where they are just over the fluff. They don't want to do the fluff pieces anymore. They don't want to do the thing that will chart them the highest. They don't want to do the thing that will get them the viral moment. He doesn't need the commercial, like the local listeners to know his big hits. He he knows that what resonates with the fans will resonate with the fans. And he is kind of just going back to his instincts of what he feels like is most authentic to him in the music. And I really feel that. And I it feels really strong to me. And I don't know if everyone feels the same. I would love to hear other people's takes on this because I feel so strongly about it. Like I'm really just talking and out of my ass right now, but like I feel so passionate about it because I feel like this is the most artistically inspired Justin has been in a really long time, but he also does not feel the pressure to perform for people anymore. And I think Justin's career is so spectacular, extraordinary, cautionary, very nuanced. Like I have such conflicted feelings about Justin Bieber, and while I am a fan, there there's a lot of conflicted emotions when I think about him. And I'm sure a lot of people can say the same. So that's kind of my analysis of these two albums and these 2 points in Justin Bieber's career. I am honestly like really kind of all over the place with this episode, so I'm not sure if I talked too much about one or the other. Hopefully when I'm editing this, it will turn out fine. But I guess I want to end this episode with what I see next for Justin Bieber. Now, he's a dad. Like he told those paparazzi, it wasn't clocking to them that he's a husband and he's a dad. There are rumors that after his Weekend 2 Coachella performance, he's going to be announcing a world tour. Now, there has been rumors of that this entire year. I've been hearing it all throughout this year. Maybe I can update you guys next week on next week's episode if it ends up being true. I personally don't see it happening for him because the last 2 tours he went on, he just had such a rough time mentally and physically actually. Like his half of his face got paralyzed in the last tour and he had to cancel it. I personally think it would be best that he does not tour because I just feel like that would be so rough. Like touring is rough, dude. I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what artists are put through when they go on tour. You know that clip of Michael Jackson where he's like, I hate touring. I hate to tour. And then it was just like, well, don't say that. And he was like, I love to tour. But I think Justin Bieber is probably one of those artists that know really well how exhausting and draining touring really is. And I hope he doesn't, just for his health. Like, just for his sake. It would be great if he does, I guess, but I would be a little worried if he really does announce a tour after this Coachella performance. I would be concerned. I'm not gonna lie. But he did seem like he was having a really great time like performing the songs at these 2 little intimate shows that he did in LA before Coachella. I think he loves singing and I think he does love performing. I just think touring is a really big commitment physically, emotionally, mentally. After this, I think after the swag era, I think he will probably continue releasing albums until he says he doesn't want to anymore. Like, I truly see him continuing to make music because I think that's what he loves. I would love to see Justin work more behind the scenes with other artists too. I think that would be really cool. I've thought about him like going more on like the writing producing side. I think that would be great. He plays so many instruments. He is so musically gifted that I feel like there's so many things he can do when it comes to his next steps. I think Justin Bieber is at that point where he's like, I know I'm that guy. He put it best in that song. He is the one. he knows that he's that guy. He knows that people will continue to support him. I think he knows that people want to see him do well. I hope that's what he gets from this era. I hope that's the support he's getting like in his real life too. And I would just love to see how his artistry continues to evolve. I feel like it can only go up from here. This is where he kind of puts a stamp, and it's like a milestone in his career where he fully gets to do whatever he wants. What's interesting is that I don't get the vibe that this is like his final album, or like he's gonna retire after this and he's gonna like settle down or whatever. I think he's just getting started. Truly, like it might take a couple years for the next album, but like I think he's gonna continue making music. I think he really tapped into what he's truly passionate about, and I'm really, really excited for him. I don't think this is like a retirement album or anything like that. I think this is the point where he's like, I've done I've done all the shit at this point. Like I've headlined Coachella. I've done everything under the sun when it comes to being a pop star, and now I can just make music. And I can just do what I love, and I can just support my family, and that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, and I'm excited for him. I really am. So I guess that wraps up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts. I would be really interested to know what other people thought of this analysis. I hope I was able to bring like a little bit of a newer angle. Sorry, this episode was a little bit delayed, but we will be on regular scheduled programming for the following week. And yeah, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.